When you are.
Okay, so this is my presentation on the history of animation techniques. What is animation? According to Google, animation can be defined as the technique of photographing successive drawings or positions of puppets or models to create an illusion of movement of film shown as a sequence. This can be anything from a cartoon to a motion graphic. But the contemporary definition is only around since as long as photography is, but animation is way older than that. It's existed nearly as far back as human history. An early example of animation before photography is 5,200-year-old pottery bowl discovered in Shari-Shukta, Iran. The bowl is painted with 5 images around it that shows a goat jumping around nipping at a tree. In Egypt, around 4200 BC, was found in the Beni San cemetery a mural of people wrestling each other. The magic lantern was 15th century early projector before the light bulb was invented. It worked using a translucent oil painting. You can project it onto a surface with the use of an oil lamp and a lens to project the image onto a flat surface, much the same as a film painting. It wasn't known when this first came around, but the earliest person you can credit it to is Giovanni Fontana in these drawings. The zoetrope was another early animation device. It was invented in 1834, and the name was coined for marketing by William George Horner in 1860. It's a cylindrical spinning device with several frames of animation printed onto the inside of the cylinder. A gap or slit was cut between each frame, allowing the frame on the opposite side of the gap to be viewed. Once the device was spun, it gave off the illusion of smooth motion between frames. And on the left is one from the Victorian era in Iran, and on the right is just the last one today. So first off, I'm going to talk about celluloid animation for the two main topics. What is cell animation? Animation cells are sheets of transparent celluloid to which animated cartoon characters are painted on and photographed to create the illusion of movement. They were originally made out of real celluloid used to make film. Because this was highly flammable, it was replaced in 1934 with cellulose acetate. The first use of celluloid cells in animation was for backgrounds. Originally, characters were drawn in inked on sheets of rice paper, and a static background was drawn on a sheet of celluloid which was laid over the animation to complete the scene. This is extremely cheap for its time, but had one big downside, and characters could only move in an empty space where no background was drawn. The way to overcome this was to redraw the background for each frame, but this took a lot of time. And there you can see it, if that line there for the background, there's no way of him not overlapping it, and just not having the two overlap until they came with the great idea of putting it in the background, which I don't know if that was a technical limitation or common sense to put the background in the background, but they did. And as far as the point of cell animation, other than just having the background and the front image separated, it took me a while to figure out why you ink it and flip it around and paint it. But I think this video shows it, where the way he's painting that is he can just do individual colours and be specific once, but if you see that all the colours overlap there, you're actually not being as precise as you think you'd be if you didn't know how the process worked. So you can do sort of a quick job of it and end up with something that looks presentable. So Earl Hurd, credit is given to Earl Hurd as the inventor of the traditional cell animation process. Instead of overlaying the background, above, he switched to the background, like I just said there. So this became the preferred method for most 2D animators until the advent of computer-generated 2D animation in the 80s. He was born in Kansas City, Missouri, working in the Terrytown studio before he started his own production in 1923. He created the popular cartoon at the time, Boppy Bumps. There's a frame from it there. Colour was introduced. When rough animation was cleaned up, cells were laid over drawings and outlines inked. When the ink dried, cells were flipped over and backs were painted. Painting the backs of the cells had to keep the colours looking smooth. You can see muscle mistakes in painting, like I said. In the early days of cell animation, colour film had not become a thing, and only black and white cell animation was done. However, when colour was introduced to cell animation, details of hues and shades need to be extremely specific before artists to be able to reproduce the same colours and frames without continuity errors everywhere. Another big problem with cell animation that they only solved with computers was fogging. Cells are transparent, but if you stack too many up, light passing through will start to become diffused, making the image look blurrier. In addition to this, if you stack too many cells on top of each other, the colours will start to look off. You'll get darker shades than you intended to if you've got too many layers. The Xerox machine was the biggest innovation for cell animation since it began. Because animation took in such a high volume of cells required to produce their work, cells were often wiped clean and reused. Due to this work, putting into due to the work of creating many famous animations, no longer exists, so a lot of cells have died before Xerox. But once that was brought about in 1938, I don't think I got that right, but the revolutionized the workflow of animation at the time. Rather than handing in each cell, originally cleaning up artwork could be mechanically copied onto cells. It was first used by Disney extensively in 101 Dalmatians. It soon became the industry standard. Before Xeroxing, the color of character would also form the color of their outline as well, making for like softer, more believable characters. But with the introduction of Xerox, colored outlines had to be done away with. And from then on, you'd see every animation was done with black outlines, nearly without exception. CAPS was introduced in the 80s. This was a computer animation production system. Disney worked with young Pixar to speed up the workflow of cell animation and trying to use a computer. This allowed individual cells to be scanned with a computer, which gave a lot of advantages, including the cells didn't have any color blending anymore. You could have an infinite color palette, colored outlines that could be used again, and cell logging was no longer a problem. Although Disney adopted technology quickly enough, it was expensive at the time, and TV shows didn't have the money until the late 90s to start adopting the system. SpongeBob, which was the most popular cartoon at the time, only transitioned from using this in 2004. So it's stop motion. So stop motion is an animation technique which involves both the photography of and physical manipulation of an object so that it appears to move on its own. This effect is achieved by moving the object in increments which approximate the amount of movement the object would have undergone in the time between a frame. A lot of stop motion animation is done using models purpose-built with movable joints, but also stop motion converts imitation of any object in this manner from Lego to people. And as well, most models are used using silicone or claymation as called. So the early history of stop motion, it's one of the oldest tricks used to achieve special effects in film. Numerous examples can be named, including George Méliès, who used it a lot in his early films. The first instance, however, is credited to Albert E. Smith and J. Stuart Black for Vitagraph's Humpty Dumpty Circus, which depicts a toy circus of acrobats coming to life, and the original footage from it is no longer available. Willis O'Brien was a pioneer for stop-motion animation, he was an ex-newspaper cartoonist and sculptor. He was hired by the Edison Company in 1910s to make short films of prehistoric subjects, and by 1925 worked on his first feature, The Lost World. O'Brien's major success in his career was working as the visual effects guru on King Kong. The film is to this day remarked on as being so successful for O'Brien's attention to detail based on dinosaur models and almost exact paleontological studies at the time. O'Brien left his legacy in Hollywood through his protege and successor, Ray Harryhausen. After learning under O'Brien on the film Mighty Joe Young, he went on to create the effects for numerous films, including Jason and the Argonauts and Crash of the Titans. In the late 20th century for stop motion in the UK, Peter Lord, David Stockton formed Arden Animations. In 1976, they created the character Morph, who appeared as a live animated psychic to TV presenter Tony Hart. In the 70s and 80s, an animation company called Industrial Light and Magic used stop motion in films, including the Star Wars trilogy, which was the chess sequence, the Tauntauns, the AT-ATs, the Rancor in Episode 6. They were also responsible for the stop motion Raiders of the Lost Ark and Robocop. Henry Selick directed Nightmare Before Christmas in 1993. It is still today one of the most renowned films done in stop motion. He went on to direct James and the Giant Peach and Coraline, and from that, Tim Burton also did that one, The Corpse Bride. Nick Park gained much acclaim in the UK for creating Wallace and Gromit. He won an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature with Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. His other feature, Chicken Run, is the highest grossing stop motion film to date, grossing $225 million. And last, here's just a quick video of some stop motion stuff. Won't play it all. All right, yeah, that's it. Thanks.